And it's a much closer bond, I think, because of it's like trauma bonding almost, like because of all the craziness.
The best team that never was.
Best team that never was. We would have won it all. And that team was legit.
Welcome back to the Fear the Persh Podcast, the official podcast of Vaquero Baseball. I'm your host, Jeff Walker, head baseball coach. This is episode 2. Today we have a special guest joining us, Matt Bergevin, Vaquero alumnus, who after his time at Santa Barbara City College played both at Fairfield University in Connecticut and then transferred to Texas A&M in College Station, Texas. Matt will be talking about his time at Santa Barbara City College, his experience playing high-level Division I baseball after transfer from junior college. Matt came to SBCC during COVID. This is an awesome episode that will highlight not only what it's like betting on yourself, but it's like playing high-level Division I baseball. Today's episode of the Fear the Persh podcast is brought to you by Lily Fitness. Train smarter, move better, perform at your best. Lily Fitness, located 111 Santa Barbara Street in the Funk Zone, group classes, personal training, and more. Lily Fitness, Santa Barbara's top coach for full body strength, mental clarity, and lasting results. For more info, go to www.lilyfitness.com to book your session today. Boom. All right. Well, welcome back to Fear the Persh podcast. My guest today is former Vac from, I don't know if it was a season, but it was definitely a team, 2021. So welcome Matt Bergevin to Fear the Persh. So welcome, Matt.
Coach, good to be back. This is awesome.
I was talking about you got your Fairfield shirt and hitting the chest a little too hard. So it doesn't, you might have to get those guys to get you a new one.
Oh, I got to make some calls to our equipment guys.
I know. Well, we have to order some extra large double XL Hawaiian shirts for you for being on the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
Honored.
So you were part of a team in 2021. You talked a little bit on your TikTok of what that experience was like. Not completely all accurate, but
Cliff Notes version.
How did you end up at Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara City College?
It was Shuck. It was Steve Shuck. He was my high school coach for like a year and a half. And then he obviously took the job at Santa Barbara High. And I really trusted him with like everything in the college recruiting world. So when my Division II school went bankrupt, which is an absurd sentence,
I guess you can't give them a shout out, right? They don't exist anymore.
I don't know if they do. Do they?
I don't know.
Chuck, I love you. I hope you listen to this. I need to text him. But I just reached out. I'm like, yo, where do I go? What do I do? Arizona JUCOs were like flooded with guys, and he was like, listen, if you want to live in a nice part of the world and play really high level junior college baseball, you should go to Santa Barbara City. And so my parents and I sat down, figured out what we could do like budget wise, and we could do it for a year. And I was like, all right. I mean, at that point with like COVID and everything too, it was like not desperation, but you were really just trying to go to a place to give yourself the best shot.
Right. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew.
Nobody. I mean, nobody had a fighter's chance of even having a clue of what was going to happen. So it was great. I mean, it just, it's like how life goes. It kind of just fell into my lap and made it work. So
I always talk about it. There's always some 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Santa Barbara and Santa Barbara City. There's always something. So there was the connection to Shooky and, him coaching. He coached the Foresters and now he's at Santa Barbara High. And that was what kind of connected us together. So that was, kind of one of those things where, we got players that dads went to UCSB or some people vacation in Santa Barbara. So there's always usually some sort of connection to Santa Barbara or team. Now I'm getting old and coaching brothers of kids that have played for us. So soon it'll be,
your sons.
Yeah, it'll be kids, dads that I coach. So we're kind of on those lines. So kind of a weird time. Had, more guys than we typically do. And, typically on average, the first day of fall, we usually get between 60 and 80 guys. I think that year we probably had over 100.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody got their year back and guys were leaving other JCs to come and we didn't really know what was going on. You mentioned the long practices.
They were awesome.
So I always go back. So that fall was actually probably one of the most favorite for me because we didn't know what the heck was going on from day to day. I'm just trying to get creative, just trying to get you guys on the field. So we actually didn't practice a whole lot. We just scrimmaged all the time.
Yeah. It was great.
So which team were you on? Were you on Gator, Bean, or Bruce?
Butterbean forever, baby.
And who was your coach?
I think it was Juice. I'm pretty sure it was Juice. Yeah, because it wasn't TC and it wasn't Harms.
And I was on Aiden's team. I was his assistant coach. So he was the draft. He made a bad draft. I gotta give you crap about that one. So he made a bad draft, but I don't even remember we had like an MLB style draft on Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
And your AD Rocco was like, he dressed up in like a suit and tie.
It was awesome.
We did it. And then what we had 3 teams, and then one team like had a bye, and then like one team, like we just made this whole on schedule, just trying to, like, you guys don't care about bunt defenses or whatever. And that was kind of fun. You know, it took us to the end of the fall, and then you guys came back, I think it was in January. And you remember what those practices were like? Because we were kind of in limbo about not playing a season, you know, playing a 20-game season, or school decided not to play a season, which in your case ended up being the best thing for you because it got you another year of eligibility. But do you remember what those practices were like?
I remember getting it the one time it rained heavy. The only thing I remember about that spring, it rained like crazy, and we did like landscaping work on the field for what felt like ever. And then it was like the next day or two we got canceled for the year. And I remember like that entire time we were fixing for the field, all of us were like, man, I don't know if we're going to play a year this year, like other schools, like, you know, how the 19-year-old rumor mill goes around. I just remember there were so many stops and starts. And I just remember I just remember April and May, we played a ton. But before that's all just a blur.
I think what we ended up doing, because they were like some weird stuff about, you know, number of guys. I think what we did was we split you guys into 2 different groups, and we basically like cut and paste the same practice like twice. And it was like, you know, I mean, you guys did get a lot of reps. It was like you guys hit BP, went through a practice, and then you guys went to the cage, and the next group came in and went through a full practice.
That's right.
And then And then we were like conditioning twice with like 2 different groups. So those were long days on the coaches too, which typical, you know, JC. I mean, we get 15 weeks of fall baseball, which is, you know, Division I gets 6, Division II gets like 4, and Division III is like some like weird number, like 12 days or something.
Yeah, it's not even like weeks.
Yeah, so it is kind of interesting. I mean, again, kind of weird. It's like, you know, you were working at the base where my wife was working out of, you're skateboarding. Probably all your classes were online, but do you have a favorite class that you did?
Surfing 101.
Did you actually take that class?
Yeah, and it was like we couldn't surf because of all the like COVID restrictions. So it was like the theory of surfing. We had to watch like some movies. It was the greatest class. I still talk about that class like to this day. It's my favorite class I've ever taken in school.
Did you actually go out and surf?
Like we went down, like they told us, the professor and like her like TA would tell us like, hey, there's going to be good break, like, you know, 30 miles down the road. If you go down toward Ventura, you can like catch it at 7 a.m. And so whenever we had like especially when I had like those 2-week like COVID stop breaks, I'd go surf in the morning and then come back and like hit with Pat and Liam and then, you know, go about my day. But it was never like organized. All right, everybody go out. We're all going to, it was so odd, but it was awesome. I mean, it was one of the greatest experiences ever.
What would you say? I mean, again, it was weird, like, because you've, you know, made stops at Fairfield. Where is it? Over here.
Concordia, way up there. Yeah.
Concordia, Fairfield, and then at Texas A&M, someplace out here.
There you go.
I mean, how would you, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to say, like, you know, team culture, but what would you say like the culture of that group was? Because, I mean, and do you still talk to some of those guys?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the term JUCO bandit.
I don't, it's a weird thing to me, but go ahead.
Yeah. I think for better or worse, however that term gets interpreted, excuse me. The bond is like surprisingly close. I'd probably talk to a dozen or more of those guys. I mean, I was just texting with Gear the other day, like Tommy Takayoshi and I, we played against each other when I was at Fairfield. So we still connect, like Pat, Liam, Michael Marks. I mean, I go down the list. It feels like there's a million guys. We as players, like we still talk about that team and we still talk about that year a lot. And it's a much closer bond, I think, because of it's like trauma bonding almost, like because of all the craziness.
Best team that never was.
Best team that never was. We would have won it all. And that team was legit. I mean, there were so many guys that went, and even like more than D1, like to high level D2, like Mayans went to Chico, which was an awesome place. Like we had some studs, and we talk about that year a ton. Like it was awesome. I mean, it was really, that's one of the closest teams I've been around, just like camaraderie wise. We still send each other pictures. We still talk about stories. Yeah.
Were you guys hanging, because normally our guys, I mean, kind of like our competitive advantage is like we have a lot of guys from outside the area. And so guys are kind of like doing normal college stuff and they're hanging out versus like my community college experiences. We were just getting in the car and driving and going home, and you never saw the guys or the girls in your class ever except just in class or at the field. So were you guys hanging out a lot off the field?
Yeah, as much as we could. Like we had those like COVID pods, like we could only be around our roommates. But like Pat Muscat and Liam Harrison were my roommates, and I was around those guys either training or hanging out every day. I mean, every single day we were doing something together. And then like when it permitted, we would go, hey, let's all go down to the beach. Let's all grab lunch. Like we were a tight group beyond just like what junior college standards may be. Like even like for my time at Fairfield and at A&M and just guys that I know, like we were a tight group just in general. I felt like we all hung out like a good amount while obviously trying not to screw ourselves over on the COVID end, right? It was a kind of a weird.
No one to be that guy, right?
No, God. And it was the worst feeling because Arms was going to let you know about it if you were, So, but yeah, I felt like we were close, irregardless of like what was going on externally. I think we all liked being around each other. We all were really competitive, which helped a lot too. That was a good group. That was a really good group of guys.
Do you have a favorite story that you could think of being around those guys, either on or off the field?
I'm sure I have a million. Probably. Man, that's such a good question because there's a million of them, which is a good thing. Probably one of my favorite guys with a lot of stories with Andrew McKenna. Right. I just felt like he always had something going on. And I remember he hit a homer in a scrimmage after Harms was just on him all scrimmage. It hit off the hotel. And he was like rounding the bases, just like himself getting fired up. That one was funny. But the best story of us as a team was when we got done, we had played Hope for that last scrimmage. We got done and we all got together. I want to say at someone local's house. I forget who it was. Might have been Moses. It was somebody local. And we all just got together. Like we ordered a ton of pizza and just like hung out all night. Like we didn't do anything. We didn't like even go out. Like we couldn't because of COVID. We all just literally sat in the house and just like hung out, told stories, like talked about this year, talked about what the future was going to hold for some of us, where we're going to summer. And it was really, not to get emotional or, not to get sappy, but it was like this really cool culmination of like a lot of BS we had to deal with, so much of it outside of all of our hands, players and coaches included. And we really got to kind of like just relax, like be around each other, I think there was like 40 or 50 of us left at the time. There were probably 35 guys in that house, just like hanging out. And that's my favorite one. Cause I think it was just it was just cool to see how we all bonded through pretty crappy and unprecedented times. And we're able to still just really love each other.
You guys all deserve like a Purple Heart. I have a picture of you guys. We took a picture out that year we got 2 scrimmages and, and now that you're done playing, I think that probably counted against your eligibility. I'm not sure, but there was no documentation of it. So, I mean,
no one gave me a problem.
Yeah, no issues there. But I think we played Westmont and we played Hope. Yep. And I think like the combined score was something like 30-2 over those.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
And both of those teams were like NEI regionals like the following like week or two because we were actually playing them like because they had buys like going into the regional and they're in the same regional, and it was like kind of funny watching that. Talk about, because again, weird time, right? So
yeah,
your recruitment out of Santa Barbara City College to Fairfield, and then what was that like going from basically not even a full season of junior college, just a lot of practices? What was that like? And, how were you prepared for that next jump? You did pretty good. So
turned out all right. I think the recruiting part, getting there was the hardest part. I must have sent at least 1,000 emails. I probably made 200 or 300 phone calls, just like bugging people.
Right.
The very long story short is Fairfield upset Arizona State in the Austin regional in 21.
Right.
And, my parents are both Sun Devils, and I was like, well, if they're good enough to beat ASU, I should probably be humble enough to just like send them an email and be like, hey, I'll walk on. That was the original thought. They needed the first baseman. I don't know how much, but like I didn't really play first at Santa Barbara. I didn't really play first at D2. And I remember the email saying, I really don't know how to play first. I can hit. I'm a good student. Like, please see this, basically.
Right.
And a week later, Brian Fay, who's now the head coach at Fairfield, which is awesome, he shot me a call and was like, yo, send transcripts. Like, let's get you out to Connecticut. We want to work you out. And I was like, oh my God, like this is actually happening. Cause it was the the well was so dry just because of COVID, right? Nobody was doing anything. I mean, the only nibble I had was Bryson LeBlanc, who's now at Mizzou, that was down at UC San Diego at the time. And even then it was like, we'll wait and see type of thing, which sucked, but it, I think, helped on the back end.
Bryson, a shout out. He's actually at Pepperdine now. So
is he actually? Good for him.
Yeah. So he's
good for him.
We kind of came up through the ranks together, and he was always trying to, I mean, you're just another Vaquero he didn't get. Like he's been like first in line when he was at Riverside. Tyler Gilbert,
Diamondback legend Tyler Gilbert,
and Matt Henderson, who ended up playing at Florida State. Like he was like the first to the party. And then what's funny is once he left San Diego, then San Diego got Villar, and so that was like our joke is like it took him to leave San Diego
to get a guy,
finally get a guy. So I
loved him.
I actually talked to him the other day. I said, Pepperdine's nice, so maybe you have a chance of getting one of our guys.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like,
but did you go out and do a camp and they work you out?
It was illegal. It was during during one of the dead periods. It was on like a backfield of Greenwich High's like baseball complex with a kid that was already committed. And they're like, hey, if you want to come out, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to come out. So my dad and I flew out, and they didn't tell me it was illegal until like that fall. They're like, hey, by the way, like what we did was illegal, right? And I'm like, no, like, well, what do you mean? Like, it was a dead period. I'm like, oh shit.
COVID, no rules.
No rules.
Rules probably don't exist anymore either.
Nowadays it's got to be hellacious with NIL and all that BS, but that's another topic.
That's another podcast.
My God, geez, that's another seminar. But to finish the question, I felt at times like over-prepared, especially from like a mental work ethic side because of JUCO. And I think that's an answer you probably get a lot from guys. I felt like, especially like Fairfield is a very nice part of the world. There's a lot of wealthy families. There's a lot of wealthy kids. And I'm not at all talking smack about my old teammates, but like a lot of them just hadn't gone through stuff like that.
Right.
And so when I got there, like extra work just felt like more practice and didn't even feel like that. It just felt like, okay, like we have practice from 9 to 2 instead of 10 to 2, right? And like going to the cage after didn't feel like an option. It felt, yeah, it's just what you do. And then like, because my sophomore year, my first year at Fairfield was a little up and down, just like adjusting to like the schedule of playing and the schedule of games, right? And just kind of that cadence. And so I remember there were times where I'm like, I would literally tell myself on deck, it's like, okay, if you can get recruited during COVID and do what you did last year, like you can hit an 89 mile an hour sinker the other way. Like it's not that big of a deal. So I felt like I was way better off for it, even though it took a long time to get there.
Today's episode of the Fear the Persh podcast is brought to you by Lily Fitness. Train smarter, move better, perform at your best. Lily Fitness, located 111 Santa Barbara Street in the Funk Zone, group classes, personal training, and more. Lily Fitness, Santa Barbara's top coach for full body strength, mental clarity, and lasting results. For more info, go to www.lilyfitness.com to book your session today. Yeah. Well, you didn't, one of the cool things about it is we kind of have like a 1-to-1 practice to game ratio, like in a normal season, not a COVID season. And so like when you're, go to the 4-year level or specifically Division I, where it's like game on Tuesday, game on Friday, game on Saturday, game on Sunday, and you're like having to try to find your swing in the middle of the series, you don't kind of get a practice off. So I remember that was kind of a weird adjustment for me when I made that jump. But a lot of the guys or a lot of the former players kind of echo the same things you said. I was talking to another coach in another GC. He's just like, hey, your players always seem to do well and everybody wants to wave the flag of where all their players go. But it's like, like, at this point, like, I mean, in the last 3 years, we have one kid that's in the portal and he's just trying to level up. Everybody else plays and stays where they're at. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think like one of those things you mentioned before was like, the quote grind. But the other thing I noticed is guys that like actually had jobs. Like, it's like this weird thing of like a customer service job, working a front desk, parking cars. Like, Santa Barbara is kind of a, college town to have those kind of jobs, but those guys always seem to thrive. I think you talk about when they get to those places, like the guys that have had everything, the perfect game guys and it's disrespected, but they just kind of like don't know what to go through some of that stuff.
For sure.
And you talked about the mental thing is, I mean, you're not going to play right away. I mean, and then you may have to sit on the bench and you may have to get a pinch hit. And like, there's things like I think some kids just aren't prepared for, especially freshmen. I was reading a stat the other day. It's like 10% of freshmen in Division I, like actually are like impact players. And then it's like And then it's like, and then it's like of the 10%, it's like those guys were guys that were drafted or were going to get drafted. And then like, the rest of the common folk, like, us, it's like you're pretty much as a freshman, at that level, you're pretty much you have to kind of figure it out. And it's a tough time. So you had 3 good years at Fairfield, right?
Yep.
Graduated from Fairfield with a business degree.
Economics and international studies, double majored, which was awesome. They were allowing me to do that.
And then you got to grad transfer, and then you were kind of like a hot grad transfer there at the beginning, right? And ended up Texas A&M.
Yeah, it was I remember when I didn't really know I was going to jump in the portal until kind of 2 weeks before I did it. I think I love I would like to shout. I'd love Fairfield. Like I want my kids to go there. It's just, it's like you talk about paradise on the beach in Santa Barbara. Well, Long Island Sound's not exactly the Pacific Ocean, but it's pretty close to like that level of place. And like I lived on a beach senior year, like all that stuff. So I loved it as a school. I was very much in between of like, my 2 thoughts were, how good can I get? Like, do I need to go somewhere to figure that out? And would being here for 4 years and being here as a 24-year-old be not great for me? Fairfield's a great undergrad school. It is very limited on like its graduate population, right? So that was a concern. That was a consideration. And then I just think as the year went on, I wanted to do it, hopped in the portal. My goal was Arizona State. I was like, I'll go home, play for the Devils and like see what happens. My first 2 calls were Miami and South Carolina. And I was like, oh, we might need to recalibrate the scope a little bit type of thing, which was cool. What's funny is I actually committed to Notre Dame before. I didn't post it or anything, but I was committed. I told them on like a Friday afternoon, I want to go to Notre Dame. Catholic and went to Catholic college. Like it'd be cool just to do that, right? It's Notre Dame. And I just figured playing in the ACC would be sick. The story is they were supposed to call me at 10 on Monday to like finalize all the finances and stuff. They called me at 10:30, and in between 10 and 10:30, A&M, ASU, Texas, and one more big school called me. And I was like, I gotta reassess, thinking ASU, and then A&M just kind of ended up being the right option for a ton of reasons. But yeah, I was 30 minutes away from being a Fighting Irish, which is pretty cool.
I think it worked out well for you. Did you ever were you playing summer ball anywhere in your 4 years?
Yeah.
Once baseball, where'd you play at?
Yeah. So I played in the Perfect Game League in New York with another team that doesn't exist anymore. So I guess I'm bad luck for teams and schools.
Grim Reaper.
I know. Played in the Perfect Game League. That was a great league. A lot of young guys, like underclassmen, but very competitive, like Power 4, Power 5, whatever, Power 2, whatever it's called now. And then my next year, I played in the NECBL with the Valley Blue Sox. That league was awesome. That league was baby Cape in every sense. Really, really good competition.
Yeah. I coached a summer in Newport, and that was probably one of my favorite summers when I was coming up through the ranks, actually. Was their pitching coach. I think we ended up having 3 or 4 big leaguers off our pitching staff. So I was a really good pitching coach that summer.
Looked good when you got nasty stuff and tutelage.
Yeah. Newport wasn't a bad spot either. It was like, I did like Oprah's houses in Montecito and like Bon Jovi's houses in Newport. So it was pretty close on that end.
Yeah, not bad. No, they were always gross.
What do you miss about Santa Barbara? You only got to spend a year here.
How much time do you have?
People always, when they leave here, they always try to figure out a way the rest of their life to come back. So what'd you miss? Besides surfing 101.
Besides surfing 101, which I do miss greatly. Can't surf on Long Island. Probably just like this is going to be a weird one, but like my walk to work, my walk to practice, my skate to work, my skate to practice, they were gorgeous. Like you had an excuse every day to wake up, and you do this, I'm sure, to wake up and go, I live in the greatest place in the world. I get to play baseball and like take online classes. This is like, how did I get so lucky? So probably that. Obviously it's super nice, and you can talk about the material things, but like I genuinely just enjoyed my walks down to the beach. I enjoyed my drive to the grocery store like a ton, and you don't enjoy that everywhere. Like it's probably that. The quality of life at the bare minimum is so high. You pay for it, but it's so high. I miss that a ton.
Yeah, it's not I always tell people a lot of times it's not reality, which I think always triggers people's like memories, whether they went to UCSB or City College or Westmont. Like they always like talk about how good of a time it is. A lot of people always talk about food. So did you have a favorite food place? Like
Tino's and Santa Cruz Market. Those are the two.
Those were your go-to.
Those were our go-tos. Tino's had the best sandwich in town. Pat and I found that like week 2. of being
Right.
down here. Thank God. And then Santa Cruz, my dad put me onto it. He visited, took a walk down there, was like, Bubba, the best burritos in town are at Santa Cruz. And that became like the post-practice spot.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm missing so many places, I'm sure, but for whatever reason, it's like those two stick out just so much.
There was the favorites by our field, of course, are Rudy's, which is an easy one. And then there's a place in the harbor on the alley, and they love on the alley. And then guys that, really want to go for it, the high-end guys, they go, what is it, Moni's? But Moni's is a spot too. But those good sandwich spots, they actually just opened a South Coast Deli right in the Funk Zone, which is right there. Yeah. So shout out to them. Like that's a solid sandwich. I just crushed it there yesterday. So that was.
What's your order?
I just go with the Italian. I don't know what it's called. It's just,
can't go wrong.
Yeah. I find something I like, I stick with it. So it's, it's on that end, but it's always interesting with some of that stuff. It's kind of funny, but you do have that, you do play junior college regardless where it's at. People do like, you do kind of have a thing. I look at some of my former teammates, and you kind of also look up and down, like guys that end up getting into coaching and highly successful, all kind of can trace back to California JC. So it's certainly a badge of honor that you get
absolutely
on that part.
Absolutely.
Just kind of finishing up, any other stories you want to share, or what are you doing now that you're finished playing?
Yeah. I have one story you'll love before I get to that. Caserta coached against me at Iona and Fordham.
Yes.
And I got one of this guy's back pick when he was at Fordham because I was too busy chatting his ear off.
That's awesome.
That was one of the coolest things to like get done with my last round of BP and like look over and TC's right there. Like the first year, I was like, dude, what? Like, how are we here? He's doing really well with the Marlins. He's a guy that I like still talk to. Like speaking of guys I still keep in touch with, like I text him.
He's awesome. I remember when you committed to Fairfield, I think you were playing. Were you up in like the West Coast League, like playing the team?
Yeah. I was with the Portland Pickles for a little bit.
Yeah, and he was taking over Harms's travel team, and he was like, "Hey, Bergevin," I thought he said you were going to a camp or something. And he's like, "Yeah, he's going to commit to Fairfield." It was probably like June-ish, maybe July.
Yeah. It was late June, early July. Yep.
Yeah, I always kind of remember like things like that, or like when guys do say it's funny, like on the recruiting end, when guys do say that they're coming to Santa Barbara, like I always kind of remember where I'm at and things like that. So
he's
certainly cool. Yeah, you got was that intentional getting the guy back picked?
Absolutely, 100%. I told our catcher he had a great arm, and I said, Ethan, like, I know this first base coach really well. He's my JUCO hitting coach. We're going to get him. I'm going to take my glove off on like a 1-0 count, and we're doing it. And he was like, all right. And it was literally like the guy hit like a first pitch leadoff single. Our guy goes ball one. And I was like, oh, here we go. And we were 3 pitches into the inning. And it was like in the third inning. I was on him the entire rest of the game.
So
Oh, it was like perfect. And I still give him crap to this day about it whenever I text him.
Yeah, I think Santa Barbara ruined him too, because he's an East Coast guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then, he was a year, I think, as a grad assistant at UCSD, and then came over and it was 2 years with us.
Yep.
And then his first job was at Iona, which is not it's cold. And then
it's not Santa Barbara.
Yeah. And then, so I think like I talked to him last year when he was accepting the job with the Blue Jays. So I think he's like in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or something. I'm like, you just need the warm weather. He goes, yeah, man. He goes, I had enough. He goes, I was spoiled in Santa Barbara. It's just like, and so I think we kind of did that to him. So now I think he's like going forward, he's only going to accept warm weather jobs. So
boy, that sounds like him.
Yeah, it kind of does that. It's kind of funny. But what are you doing now?
So I work for a financial software company. I do sales and integration. It's called Move. It's a Stripe competitor, and I love it. It's fully remote. It's a great company, 7-year startup. Found them through some A&M people that were invested. And it's got the greatest alumni network in the world, it feels like. So those people were really, really good to me. And then I do color commentary for A&M baseball just on the side, just because I'm remote. So it just like works out. But yeah, it's great. Been working, my year anniversaries in 2 weeks. Great little company. I like what I do. I see a path forward. It doesn't feel like a job. It does feel like the start of a career, which is more than I ever could have asked for at 25. So I'm good. Just chugging along.
So we're kind of last question for maybe some, guys, JC guys, or maybe even high school guys or guys in our program. And I talk about this, like, how important is it to, when you are deciding on a school, like to kind of factor in that alumni network, like when you do finish and how powerful that is. So you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I got really blessed with Fairfield and A&M. I like the Northeast. Fairfield in the Northeast is great. It means something. A&M anywhere in Texas and really the country, but anywhere in Texas, you say you're an Aggie. I actually did a TikTok video on this too, but like, and you know how this goes. It's like saying you're an alumni of somewhere is a badge of honor. It's like being a coach at a college, or playing at a Cali JUCO. It is a badge of honor, and people, whether they're Jeff Bezos or, Tim from down the street, they will take the shirt off their back for you if you went to the same school as them most of the time, right? And at 20 years old, it doesn't seem like a big deal. 25, 30, 35, it is. I mean, it's everything. Like if you want to start a company, you need to start investing, or if you want to switch jobs, or if you, need to move to a different part of the world, there's something about that network that's really, really powerful. And I can tell you firsthand, like in the portal, there were certain schools I just didn't really give much of a thought to because their alumni network wasn't great. And it was one of the reasons I went to A&M was that decision alone.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing. And I try to stress that. I had a kid after you that was trying to, decide on schools. And one of the schools he ended up deciding and going to was, had a very, very powerful alumni network. And I just said, and then like his commitment post, it was just getting flooded with people, like the same with Texas A&M, and he just like didn't realize it. And then when he graduated from there, he's like, man, like that was like the best decision ever. Like rather than just look at just the baseball piece, but the baseball piece of the place was pretty good too. And then a cool thing that, is connecting people, like whether they played for me or not. But we had a guy that just finished the season, and he was like, I said, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm thinking of getting into real estate. And I connected him with two former teammates of mine that were in the same business and played at the same school he did, put him on a text thread, and he's like, dude, this is pretty cool. It's like, yeah, like they were in your shoes, like they played at the same place. So certainly something to go into that too. So
absolutely. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's, it sounds very superficial almost, but it's like those connections matter more than almost everything.
I think they overlooked that. And then they also, like we talked about, it was great, like the experiences you got at, 4 different places, a school that doesn't exist, and a season that didn't happen, and then Fairfield and Texas A&M. So looking back, and with your, those are like the coolest things, right? Your coaches, your teammates, like those experiences, not necessarily the cool swagger, the gear and all that stuff, which just seems cool at the time, but but Matt Bergevin, Vac alum from the greatest team that never existed.
Never was.
Appreciate your time coming on.
Of course.
Hashtag VacPack.
All the time. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. It's awesome. So glad you reached out.
This concludes another episode of the Fear the Persh podcast, the official podcast of SBCC Vaquero Baseball. Keeping you updated in all things Vaquero Baseball. I'm your host, Jeff Walker, head baseball coach. Hashtag VacPack, hashtag Fear the Persh. Until next time, see you in the big leagues.